Hi everyone, welcome to the stewarding for the multi-class madness, which we did on Friday the 24th. I think this is the first round. Um, we'll go through the first lap incidents, starting with an incident at 3:07 right near the start.
Yep.
Okay, so the first instance we want to look at was with Craig and Vassilos. Um, so I think the car in front just had a very slow getaway at that point, which caused a bit of a backup, and then was very cautious on this first corner.
Yeah.
Craig had nowhere to go really, he had to
Yeah.
take avoiding action. Unfortunately, if we look at it from uh, Rich's point of view, go back a bit, you'll see Rich comes through on the inside just at the point where Craig takes avoiding action.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at this point, Rich spins off, which is really unfortunate. He did a
Yeah.
very good job of rejoining here, very safe. But I really feel it. You can't really punish Craig because the car
No.
in front was going really slowly, braked really, really early, and also I don't think we can penalise Vassilopoulos for being cautious. So I'm
No.
sort of fairly happy to put this down to a racing incident.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I'd add to that is just to remind everyone you need to stay in your box at the start, because if you start to fall back, it causes all the other cars to fall back. And like in ACC, you can just stay in the box and go through the car at the start. But yeah, it's even more important here to be in your designated box at the start.
Yeah, because I was behind Craig. If I can find me, and it did cause me a few issues
Yeah.
right here at the start. We're like gagging to get going,
Yeah.
and we can't go anywhere. I'm literally stuck there, and this car behind me is the same situation. Oddly,
Yeah.
LMU normally gives you a penalty if you're outside of that box by a long way, doesn't it?
It normally does, but I remember reading the last set of patch notes, they'd adjusted how it penalises you at the start, so I don't think it's quite as strict now as it was
Right.
like a week or so ago.
Okay. Well, maybe that's it. Anyway, we'll move on
Yeah.
to the next instant. Okay, so this is Gary coming to the first left-hander. And at that point, he has contact with Paul Wallace.
Yeah.
And who's the one in the middle?
Paul Garnham, I think.
Paul Garnham. So he hits Paul Garnham, and then I think Paul Wallace on the outside gets slightly caught up in that as well.
Yeah.
Paul Garnham's perspective. He's going through quite careful, and Gary sees his opportunity but goes for it, but doesn't quite carry it off.
Yeah. I mean,
Unfortunately.
I think Gary braked at the right point, but I think maybe he braked too hard when he realised.
Yeah,
Um,
and locked up. It's so easy to
yeah.
lock these ones up because
Yeah.
they've got no ABS to fall back on.
Yeah.
This is Paul's
Uh,
perspective, yeah. So Paul
I
had
don't think
hardly any
he
damage, didn't lose any time. I
no.
think Paul Garnham would have had a bit of damage. But I do think it was
Yeah.
just going a bit hot into that corner by Gary.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think he was much meaning to dive, but he may have locked up and briefly and had to swerve around to avoid them, but then just couldn't stop.
yeah, I think for me that's probably a avoidable collision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
alright.
Sorry, Gary. Okay, so this is the next incident involving Mr. Samuel and Mr. Muller. So let's have a look.
Yeah, I think that's a clear-cut case of just probably lock in the brakes. These
Yeah.
cars got terrible brake lights. They're like little thin things, really hard to see. You can see.
Oh, I see him.
I just want to see the braking point. So there. I mean that's
Oh,
fairly late if you were going flat out. That's probably
yeah,
too late.
yeah,
And it does look like they've just gone straight on at that point. Even if we go back slowly,
yeah,
the trajectory is straight ahead at that point.
yeah,
So he's always going to go into that car there.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
the
Similar
car,
to what we saw a minute ago.
yeah, I think Muller had left enough room. He'd probably
Yeah,
seen him come in. There's definitely enough room there.
yeah. He probably hoped he was going to make the corner, but
Yeah,
then didn't. But yeah, definitely he left enough room, but unfortunately, Mr. Samuel didn't make it. Too late
no,
on the brakes.
yeah, and they're so easy to damage. These cars, they're made of paper in LMU.
Yeah,
So I think that was just a little bit hot and probably an avoidable collision for
yeah,
Italo.
yeah.
Are you writing these down, by the way?
Oh, why am I not writing these
That's all
down?
right.
Hang on.
We'll do it. We'll do it afterwards. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
So the next incident we've got is Vasilopoulos today. He's starring quite a lot in today's video. So the initial incident was basically just a spin, but you've not really caused anyone any problems there. But one thing we did note is that you weren't fully on the brakes. You were part on the brakes. I'll slow it down. I'll go back to there, and you'll see what I mean. If you look over here, we can see the brake pressure that's applied. I'll run it in slow motion. So that's the braking for the corner. You then start to turn in, and you're still slightly on the brakes, which probably caused it to spin slightly. And here you've lost control of the car. Here it's going on its own. You've got hardly any brakes on at all.
Yeah.
Slight bit more brake pressure here, and then you come off the brakes shortly as you're spinning out. And here's where we really want you to hold the brakes as hard as possible, because you could have gone anywhere. So that's just a bit of a warning really about that. And the second part to this, if I run it at normal speed, is the rejoin. It's quite a dangerous rejoin, because you just move straight across to the left, where you had plenty of space to stay off the racing line when you did rejoin. So the right thing to do here would have been to keep right here, because this actually affected the car behind. If we go to Craig behind, from his point of view, he has to take avoiding action.
Yeah.
So this is from Craig, and he sees you coming across, which makes him go off the track slightly, but he has to just completely lift out of it. You can see how much space he lost. So that, I don't want to give you a time penalty for that, because you haven't caused a collision, partly because Craig was very aware of the situation, but it is a warning that we are looking at things like that, and we do.
Yeah.
Withhold the right to give penalties for unsafe rejoins.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the next incident, I noted this because I go through the first lap collisions, and this was one I noticed. It's really bizarre. It's not that. That was fine, and the rejoin was fine there. Just going along a straight, and for some reason, Italo just drives himself into the barrier. I've got no idea why. And you're not going to get a penalty for this. I just think if it was a lapse of concentration, you obviously need to focus a bit more. It could have been hardware failure though, but we're never going to know probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in the
Okay.
stream.
Yeah. Okay. So the next incident is with Mr. Aerovisori and Mr. Samuel.
Yeah.
So let's take a look and see what happens. Bearing in mind, Mr. Samuel has damage from when he drove into the wall earlier, unless he pitted between these two incidents. So yeah, he loses it there, takes massive damage, and then here he came so close to taking out Mr. Visuri.
Yeah.
That's
So
a very unsafe rejoin, straight onto the racing line, and then no awareness of the car around him.
so yeah, Aero can see the car there.
Yeah,
Has to lift off massively because he sees the car rejoining straight into the racing line,
oh,
then cuts across him again,
yeah,
and unfortunately that's definitely not an acceptable or safe rejoin. So that will
yeah,
incur a penalty. We will
yeah,
we'll discuss. So it'll be a time penalty. It'll be a
yeah,
minimum of 10 seconds.
yeah.
Okay. Not a lot more to say about that one really. Now, so the last incident we've which was from a report rather than being on the first lap, was from Patrick, car number 93, and it was involving Aero. So I'll show Aero's viewpoint to start with,
Okay,
if I can find him. There he is. So we go back a little tiny bit. So you can see Aero's getting the blue flags. So he lets the first car pass, stays off the racing line, still off the racing line. He does have to turn in at that point, but the car behind actually sort of bumps him out of the way at that point.
yeah,
And the report was for moving off the racing line, but I think in this instance, Aero had no choice.
it,
He was sort of
it,
pushed that way. We will watch it from the. I think it's. I do I always lose track of. Let's watch it from this point of view. So he's still off the racing line. You could have stayed on the outside there. You've hit him twice there.
yeah,
It's
and
Daniel there.
floored it. Yeah, he
And
floored it as well.
and I think that's actually what pushed Aero
Yeah,
out into that outer lane, and we'll look at it from Patrick's point of view, because it does look like he moved across
yeah.
from Patrick's point of view. But yeah, there's definite contact there twice. So let's have a quick look at Patrick and go back a bit further. So I don't think Aero has done anything wrong here. He gets
No,
hit there. There's not a lot he can do. In fact,
no.
the racing line was on the left, not the right there. So he actually probably would have helped you, but
Yeah, I think I mean,
it is tricky. I think Aero was pushed over there,
yeah. So I don't
unfortunately.
think Aero's done anything wrong at all. I think Mr. Lassick was just impatient going into that corner, and he needs to realise that the speed difference between the different car classes is substantial, and you can't just touch someone and then get on the power while you're right there. You have to be able to drive these cars safely without, instilling fear in the slower car classes.
Yeah, and also to bear in mind that we don't we have a broad standard of driving. Um,
Yeah,
so even if you're in the same class car, especially when you're lapping someone, there's definitely going to be a big discrepancy between experiences and speeds. A lot of people would prefer to try and get off the racing line, which isn't necessarily the right thing to do. But staying on the racing line is all well and good if everyone's very good, experienced drivers. But we don't have that breadth of experience with absolutely everybody at the moment. So we'll see in the next issue. So in this instance, I don't think we can penalise Aero.
No,
And I'm not going to penalise. I forget the name,
Mr. Lassick.
Mr. Lassick, because it wasn't actually reported for that.
Yeah,
But it was a bit impatient, really.
yeah.
Um, okay, we move on to the next one.
Okay, so this is the final report that we've had in for from Mr.
It was Patrick Den
Oh,
again.
yeah,
Um,
from
Again,
Patrick.
moving off the racing line and slowing down when
Yeah,
being lapped, causing a
yeah,
danger. So we'll watch it from outside Frank's car first.
yeah. So Frank's an LMP2, and oh, that was close.
So there you have it.
Yeah,
So now we'll watch it from. So I only go forwards, don't I? From Patrick's view.
yeah,
So Frank was definitely aware of the blue flags and the fact that you're behind him.
yeah. I mean, again, you're coming out of a corner. You got to take care when you're going to go past a slower car, and just just please be careful. You need to know the speed difference between them. I
Yeah,
don't personally. I think Frank was nervous there, and
yeah. We don't want to put like people off driving,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I feel like if we were all like really fast pro drivers, then the right thing to do would be to stay on the line and let the faster car go around you. However, we aren't all that experienced, and I think Frank has tried to get out of your way, rightly or wrongly. I don't think
yeah,
it's if anything, it's just a mild like learning experience of not to do that again in future if you've got a similar speed. But the differential between these two car speeds is massive, so it's always going to feel amplified when someone does do something which is a bit unpredictable. But
yeah,
on balance, I'm happier that a slower car gets out the way on some corners and gets offline.
yeah,
I think if we were all pros, that wouldn't be the case.
yeah. I think it would be harsh to give any kind of a penalty or a warning to the LMP2.
I
Yes.
think if anything, the thing we can learn from this is to expect the unexpected from our racers,
Yeah,
because we have as I said before, we have a full range of skills and abilities
and ages as well.
and ages. Yeah, so you've just got to be very cautious.
Yeah,
All right, that's it. Thank you very much. I'll get the results posted up later, either today or tomorrow.
yep. Excellent.